Hey guys, so we're going to work on for to work together. If you need to reference, you can go to your textbook to page 102. And let's get started. So here you can see your chart of accounts. We have our asset accounts, we have our liability account, and our equity. And then over here, our income statement accounts, revenue and expenses. Okay, so let's read what we're doing. So we have Omar Boje owns a service business that uses the previous accounts. Post the separate amounts on each line of the journal that needs to be posted individually. Select a check mark when necessary. So remember, when we do a check mark, that is for the special column accounts. So remember, special column accounts for the sales and cash. Okay, so just to make it easy, let's just start by just putting the post reference number. So here in our journal, the post reference number is going to be our account numbers from our chart of accounts. So with Omar Boje Capital, let's just go to that one first. And that is 310. So in the post reference column, we're going to put 310. Okay? And then our prepaid insurance. So if we scroll back up to prepaid insurance under our assets, that is 140. Our account number is 140. Then supplies is next. Supplies is 130. Okay. Then down to our accounts payable, ready supply. Our only liability account is going to be 210. Okay? And we're moving on to our check. We're just going to put a check mark there, okay? Does that make sense? Because that is our special column account. In our post reference, we're just going to do the same thing and put a check mark. Alright, so moving on to accounts receivable. So accounts receivable for Dan Carroll, we only have one accounts receivable, and that account number is 120. Let's scroll back down. I'm going to put account number 120. Rent expense, we can see here our rent expense is 510. Put account number 510 there. And then we have accounts payable, ready supply again. We can scroll back up here in our chart of accounts and see that is 210. And then again, we have accounts receivable transaction for that. And we can just look right here and see that was 120. And then lastly, Omar Boje drawing account, and that is 320 under our owner's equity. Alright, so let's move on to the second part. Alright, the only thing about this is that we have to scroll back up. I guess we could pin it, thank you Sam, and we can do it that way, but you want to keep an eye on this too. We need our numbers to fill this out. So let's just start with the first transaction. I'm going to unpin that. So Omar Boje Capital is the first transaction. So here it was on April 1st. We are going to put April 1st. Okay? So for our items for all of these transactions, leave the item blank. So again, you do not have to worry about putting in the item. We're just going to leave it blank because here we have our account title at the top. Okay? So, moving on. So our post reference for our general ledger is different from our post reference from our journal. So our post reference here is going to be the page number of our journal. And that is page 1. So everything in here in general ledger, post reference will be page 1. Okay? And so how much do we have? We have a credit for $2,500, so we're just going to put $2,500. And then our balance. So what is our balance? We only have one capital transaction, so that's going to be $2,500. All right, so what is our next one? On April 3rd, we have prepaid insurance, an asset account. So let's go to prepaid insurance, close that. And that is on April 3rd. So let's put April 3rd there. We're going to leave the item blank, post reference, page 1. And our prepaid insurance is a debit because we're adding value to our company. And so we only have one transaction for prepaid insurance, so our balance is $330. All right. So what's our next transaction? It is supplies. So we're going to go up to supplies. Our date for supplies was April 4th. Leave the item blank. Post reference is our page number. So that is 1. We have a debit for $160. And we only have one supplies transaction, so our balance is $160 for our general ledger. All right. What is our next transaction? Accounts payable. So we're going to go here to accounts payable. And that was on April 4th. So it's the same date. So we do have to type it up because we are in a separate general ledger. So that would be April 4th. And that is accounts. Oops, sorry. Nope, leave that blank. Leave that item blank. We have our account up there. And then our post reference is page 1. And we have $160. We paid $160. That goes with our supplies. We paid supplies on account. And our balance is $160 right there. Alright, so it looks like we are going to have another transaction, but let's just wait until we get to that transaction. Alright, so let's move on to our check mark. So here, because we have it's a special column, we don't need to do anything down here. We're going to do that in our next lesson. So right now, do not worry about that. We'll go into that when we're together, okay? So for here, let's skip transaction number 5 on the 8th, and let's move on to accounts receivable. So accounts receivable, April 9th, we received money from Dan Carroll. So leave the item blank, and that is page 1. And for how much? $122. We're going to debit, and then our balance, we're going to debit for the $122 as well. So we have another transaction incoming on the 16th. So let's just wait and let's move on to the next transaction. So rent expense. So let's go to rent expense. Looks like we only have one rent expense transaction. So we're going to put April 12th for this transaction. Skip the item, leave that blank, put page 1 for the post reference. And then rent expense, we're going to debit for $260. And then our balance is going to be a debit for $260. Okay. Alrighty, let's move on. On April 15th, another accounts payable. So let's go back to our accounts payable. So here, because we already have April, we only need to put the day. So 15, leave item blank, post reference is still 1. And then that was for $80. So we have a debit this time for $80. Okay. And so in order to get our balance now, what is 160 minus 80? That is 80. So because we still have more in the credit, we need to put it over here in the credit balance, okay? Alright, so next one, on the 16th, we have accounts receivable from Dan Carroll again. So let's go to our accounts receivable. And we already have April there, so we only need to put the day. That is on the 16th. Leave the item blank. Page number 1 for the post reference in your general ledger. And that is for $65. So we have a credit for $65. And then we need to credit that as well. We need to update our balance. So what is 122 minus 65? That is 57. So because we still have more money in our debit, we're going to put 57 over here. Right? What's our next transaction? Okay, drawing, our drawing account. So let's go down to Omar Bouget drawing. The date, so that is on the 25th. We need to write out the month. Leave the item blank. Page number 1 for post reference. And we debit. We're going to debit 500. And then we only have one drawing transaction, so we're going to debit 500 over here on the balance. Okay. Alright, so I think that is all of our transactions. Let's just go back through, make sure we have everything there. That is good. Our accounts receivable. Our supplies account looks good. Our prepaid insurance looks good. And our accounts payable looks good. Our capital account, good. And then our drawing account looks good. And our rent expense looks good. Alright, so let's save. See if we did okay. Alright, and we are good to go. If you have any questions, please message me on Schoology and I will get back to you as soon as possible, okay? I hope you guys have a wonderful break and I will see you soon.